Welcome back to Tradie Wife Life, where I'm joined by a guest I've had the privilege of meeting previously. Every year, I'm going to tell you a bit of a story. Every year, we have a ladies' retreat at Tradies in Business, where we get to take all of the tradie wives away for a very fun weekend, where we spend a lot of time together bonding, learning, growing, pushing some boundaries, trying some new things, and having a lot of fun. This year we went to Hobart. I had never been to Hobart. It's an absolute stunning place. If you get the opportunity to go, you should. And one of our opportunities for growth and learning was about self-development, is the way I would like to look at it. And we tend to have a theme each year, and this year was very much about developing the self in and away from business practice and family life, and filling your own cup to the point of overflow rather than tipping out of your cup to others and draining yourself before you give back. And a big part of that for me, I had some experience before with breath work. And when we did a bit of a search, as the universe always shows up and helps you at the time, the right person was delivered to us. And our guest today, Terese Tanner, led us in a wonderful experience with a sound bath. We did some breath work and had a huge moment for all of us in collaboration to get some clarity. There were some big shifts in the room in a very small period of time. We had a lot of growth. A lot of our ladies have followed up and done a whole bunch more work in this area. And so when we were recently brainstorming some ideas for the podcast and what we might like to bring to you, our listeners, breath work, that entire concept and understanding why it works, how it works, what it actually looks like, came up. And of course, then Terese was our natural go-to because she did such a fantastic job with our ladies and we had a lovely connection. So Terese Tanner, thank you so much for joining us today on Tradie Wife Life.
You are most welcome. Thank you for having me.
If you're not watching on YouTube, if you're just listening in on one of the podcast apps, it's beautifully sunny where Terese is, and I'm incredibly envious of how lovely it is there today.
But maybe now in the next 10 minutes. But
well,
yeah, we are having quite a mild winter down here in Hobart. There's no snow on the mountain and it's beautiful.
That is a mild winter because it was quite mild when I was there, March, which is still summerish. And it was quite mild, in fact, hot, but I'd prepared for the really cold weather, but it wasn't cold at all. It was quite warm.
You didn't get to wear your thermals?
No, I didn't. Instead, I wear them here in my office in Queensland instead. How ridiculous is that? Terese, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? I mean, we're not born and learn about breathwork straight away. So obviously there was a period of time in your life where you had a life that led you on the journey that you're now on.
Yeah. So right now I have a business as a wellness coach. So leading up to that is I've done yoga teacher training. I've done all sorts of different healing modalities. I did life coach training with Tony Robbins and Chloe Madanis a couple of years ago. I've got a background in counselling and working in services like working with people with disabilities, working with children with issues, working in drug and alcohol counselling. So a whole heap of just caring, looking after people sort of things. I'm always end up landing back doing that sort of work. So I thought, what am I going to do with this new knowledge? I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do wellness coaching. So I set myself up in a business and someone contacted me that I hadn't seen for about 8 years, and last time I saw her, we were doing breathwork training together, and we're over in Bali actually on a retreat doing that. And for some reason there was a falling out between me and my teacher at the time, and I just walked away from it. I wasn't welcome to go back in there. It was just this weird circumstance, but as you said, the universe said it's not time time for you yet. So I did half the training and then walked away, and then she contacted me and she said, oh, why aren't you doing your breath work and blah blah blah. And I was like, wow, why aren't I doing that? That'd be such a good thing to be bringing out to my clients now, out to my community, to my friends, my family. Everyone's so stressed. Why aren't I doing that? So I went online, as you do, and Googled breathwork training, found one, and this guy happened to be he's an American guy, and he happened to be in Bali. And I'm like, yeah, I lived in Bali for a little while. I get that. So yeah, I did the training course and it was like a duck to water. I just loved it. Yeah, so I did the training, and then we had to do 20 hours of practical before we got certified. And in that time, I just got so comfortable with it. And previously had been doing sound healing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when I do sound healing, I use your traditional Tibetan bowls and crystal sound bowls and, different instruments. I've got a few sort of ancient kind of healing instruments from Egypt, and I just use different things. But I'm also a classically trained vocalist. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to use my voice.
Mm.
It took me a long time. I've been singing since I was 14 years old, and in bands and, in front of thousands of people. But I was never that confident in throwing my voice out just without a band or a microphone in front of me or anything like that. So it was a real personal challenge, but I threw it at myself and started just toning, I guess you would call it. But so that's what I'm doing now, is pretty much delivering sound and breathwork journeys.
I have to say, somebody who has experienced a small journey with you in that way, we had a lovely session, and your voice for me, and this is very individual to everybody that comes along and partakes in something like this.
Yeah.
For me, it was the really emotive bit. It helped me really connect to my inner self, because I feel like, well, in that moment, a lot of the other sounds, they actually went away. I couldn't hear them. It was your voice and the connection. It was almost like a vibration that I connected to rather than the other sounds in the room. And it made it totally unique. It wasn't something I had experienced before.
Yeah.
I wonder if that is usually part of the opportunity to take part in sound bath, or is it something that just felt natural to you, so you included it in what you do?
When I was in Indonesia on a little island called Nusa Lembongan, doing my yoga teacher training, one of the other yoga teachers there was this gorgeous South American woman, and we really connected. And she was a singer as well. And she's like, "Oh, let's do these sound baths together." And obviously I'd had a sound bath, like a teepee with gongs and stuff, but I'd never really experienced using my voice in that way. So she just sort of started singing, and I just sort of started throwing in harmonies, or what I thought was just going to be harmonies to start with. And then it just went off. And people loved it. So we would hold a sound journey every week up in the yogashala. This is on a tropical island, like who wouldn't want to do that?
Yeah.
So so that was my first introduction. That was back in December 2017.
Wow.
But I don't think it's a normal thing. I know there's lots of people now, since I've been delivering breathwork and sound journeys, I know there's lots of people now, especially down here in Tassie, that are actually doing that. But I don't know how many people are actually doing it with their own voice. I'm lucky to be gifted with a good voice. Thanks, Mum. And and I've been classically trained. I've got a massive set of lungs on me, so I can deliver. But I'm also in my own sort of spiritual journey and my own growth. I've been channeling sound. So I basically get myself into this theta state and then just open up my mouth and just let whatever wants to come. So it's never planned. It's never practiced. It's just, I just let it happen. I just have to get out of the way and let it come through.
I love that. It's something I talk about with our clients a lot, is how often we get in our own way. We actually create our own realities all of the time, all of us. And so the concept of mindfully getting out of your own way is actually such a difficult one to embrace. However, if you can put it into a practice, and like anything, it's a real practice to get out of your own way and embrace somewhat the uncomfortable. I think that's what frightens most people about getting out of their way. They have to confront some discomfort rather than being in that comfort state all the time. It's incredible what can change for you.
Yeah. And that word discomfort, I mean, that is pivotal to the breathwork journeys. A lot of people, when you say, have you done breathwork before? Before we start a class, have you done breathwork before? And some people put their hand up, and by the end of the day, they're like, oh my God, I had no idea. They're thinking of like pranayama or some sort of yogi practice where you've, or just gentle sort of regulating your breath, But it is breath work for a reason. And it is quite solid. When we do a breathwork journey, a session, we breathe actively for up to 40 minutes without a break.
A lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
Yeah.
You're breathing like the method that I use, which is transformational breath work. And it's I use that method because it seems from my experience thus far to be the most effective in really helping people to tap into their inner trauma and really release those emotions that they've come up from the breath work.
Mhm.
So once we get into a bit of a, there's a certain breath and it's deep into the belly and then up into the chest. We take 2 breaths in and then 1 breath out. And then people just get into a natural rhythm with it. Some people, and you can regulate it yourself. It's the beauty of breath work is that it's very self-regulated. So, you go fast if you want more of an experience. If you want to release more stuff, you want to go deeper, or you just slow down. It's all done through the mouth, but if you want to slow down, you just start breathing through the nose. It's not quite as deep. And that's because, you're affecting your chest breath generally when you're breathing through the nose. Yeah.
It's a fascinating concept that, and I'm no stranger to this. Fortunately, I'm very blessed to have had the opportunity to do a lot of self-work and be exposed to a lot of modalities in that area. And it's still, even with the work that I've been fortunate enough to do, it still surprises me how much your body carries and how, I don't want to say easy because it's not easy. Perhaps I'll say simply, it can be uncovered rather than you just unconsciously carrying it ongoingly.
It's really uncomplicated, and it's simple and it's natural. It's as natural as breathing in and breathing out, laying down, breathing in, breathing. I mean, everyone can do that.
Yeah,
obviously
absolutely.
there's some things to consider. If you just sort of had, if you got a dicky ticker, if you just had heart surgery or something, or you've got some asthma or some kind of breathing issues, some kind of any sort of neural issues, then you'd probably want to check in with your GP first. Everyone says that, I know, but it's true, especially with breath work, because you are breathing quite a lot. I've when I was training, I was listening to guided breathwork journeys, and I actually passed out twice during one session. And people say to me, "Oh my God, what happened?" And it's like, I just woke up. That's all that happens. Your body is this amazing, I don't know, thing. Your body is this thing. It looks after itself. Its brain doesn't need. We know that when we sleep, we don't need to be engaged with our brain for our body to exist. So all that happens is that you're just over oxygenating, and your body just shuts down. Your breathing just stops, and then you just like pass out for a sec, and then back to breathing. You see people that just go, oh, and then they just start breathing again. Just go over and reassure them, make sure they realize it's okay. But it actually means that they're doing a good job. They're going hard.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a physical feat. I don't want to downplay the fact that it's our ladies were quite exhausted at the end of the session. Much of that was emotional, and a lot of them had pretty big emotional shifts. And I don't want to downplay that it is work. I don't want it to sound like this is easy. It's simple. It's natural. And it's still work. It felt like a workout, very much so, after the session, because of the physicality and the state that your body goes into and the work that your lungs are concentrating on doing, which is so different to what they do on a day-to-day basis with us when we're just functioning. Can you explain to us, Terese, what does a session with you, because obviously sessions with everybody would be very different. What does a session with you look like?
Well, as you probably worked out when we met, I'm a very spiritual person. I'm very connected to source energy and to my own spirituality. I like to make sure people are safe. It's a very important thing. So when people come into my space, generally, we didn't do that when I saw you in Hobart, but generally I do a smudging. So I cleanse energies to make sure everyone that comes in feeling a little bit special, a little bit lighter, a little bit clearer. They come in, they lay down. I have a bit of a chat about what we're about to do, reassure them that, I've got them 100%, that I'm holding the space, that I'm trained, that I know what I'm doing. I even have a really good first aid certificate. Not that we ever need.
No.
I put that in there. And I think what they expect is, they've got to put the effort in, results equal the amount of effort that you put in. So the more effort they put in, the deeper they breathe, the more willing they are to release. And that does hold some people back, of course. They're a little bit like, oh my God, I don't want to scream or cry because someone will think I'm a complete nutcase or whatever. But I generally sort of chirp in and help people by just yelling like a banshee, and then they just think, oh my God, no one's going to hear me. So that usually helps put people
Absolutely.
but yeah, just to come in and feel in a really safe, nurtured, held space to just release, to just let go of some stuff, like we've all got stuff. Our first trauma, no matter how beautiful our mum tells us our birth was, our first trauma is always our birth, because we come from this gorgeous, watery, warm, tight, cozy space, listen to mum's heartbeat, getting everything we want, not having to, do anything for it, to bam, there's lights and there's strange people and there's machines and there's all this stuff going on. And, that's your first trauma.
Yeah, most
That's
definitely.
exactly where it happens, right there. So what I explain to people is, they come and say, well, I don't know what I've got to get rid of. I've had a pretty good life. The other side of it is trauma is carried in your DNA, in your cells, and we carry that through from our ancestors. So I always make sure I call in at the ancestors, or give other people the opportunity to call in their ancestors as well, to be there to assist with the process, because from where I'm sitting and from what I'm seeing, like through the veil, is that they're all there cheering and they're going, yeah, do it, because they couldn't do it. They couldn't release that trauma. So they held it in their cells. And when they go through, when those, obviously they have children and they have grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren, and those great-great-grandchildren still holding that same trauma imprinted in that cell. We all know that there's such a thing as cell memory. No one can deny that anymore. It's a scientific fact. Just go and listen to a Greg Braden podcast, it's all in there. So what I'm inviting and giving people the opportunity to do is to release generations of trauma and stress that they've been holding on to. And sometimes when we hold on to things in different ways, some people hold on to it and they're just like all uptight, and or they develop diseases or cancers or anything like that. It can manifest as anything once you've got trauma in there. Some people carry it around as fat, they're protecting themselves. So we all carry trauma differently. We all express it differently. Some of us, push it down with alcohol, push it down with drugs, whether that's prescription or recreational, we all have different ways of dealing with it. And what I'm inviting people to do is just get it the hell out of there, release it in a beautiful, safe environment. And then, so we do 40 minutes of really active breathing, and then we do a breath hold. And in that breath hold, it's like building the energy. And then I ask them to release, and generally they've got a pillow and they're like, ah, screaming in the pillow, trying to release that. So they're not making too much noise. And some people just yell. It's great. I get there another drum and I bash the drum or the gong and yell myself. And then we do another little breathwork session, active breathing session. And then we do another hold, another release, and then maybe one more. And then it's time to bring back in and refill the cells with beautiful and positive feelings, emotions, senses, lived experiences. So, we do a little like meditation, I suppose you would call it, where we bring in the love. We think of beautiful moments in our life and bring them in. And we think of the happiest moment in life, the moment when we felt the most loved. And we really, like when you do manifestation work, you really got to feel that emotion, and we bring it in, and then we saturate with the breath, take a big breath in, breath out, and saturate the cells with those beautiful emotions, just to replace. And, like putting a soothing balm over a sore, a cut, or a damage that you've done, that's what trauma is. It's damage.
Yeah. That's a great description, actually. Terese, is this a one-time only thing? You come in, you do the session, you get fixed, or is it something we need to keep working on?
What do you think?
I might know the answer. And
yeah. Well, different people. Some people try it, and they'll go away for a while. I want to hear from them, and then eventually they'll come back and they just say, "Oh my God, I didn't realize how long the effects of that would go on for." So it's not like just it happens and then it goes away. It's a continual thing. It's still working. Your cells are all just still releasing, still processing, still doing that stuff. It takes, sometimes weeks for that to really finish happening. I have people that come every session.
Wow.
Every time they come, they go a bit deeper.
That's incredible.
And, you know, I don't like using this analogy, but there is the old onion, you know, like peeling back the layers. Surely there's other things with layers. I don't like onions.
There's not many.
Layers, I don't know. But you know, to get to the center of something, you've sometimes you have to break through a few barriers. You know, you've got to get through those layers to get to it. Everyone's different.
Yeah.
You know, I honestly believe my own philosophy, if we got rid of everything, you know, all our rubbish, all our stuff, I don't think we'd still be here. I don't think we need to be here. I think we're only here to deal with this stuff, to learn, to grow, to release and replenish. You know, that's
Fascinating concept.
Yeah.
Terese, given your counseling background then, and you would see some really, it's a real, I feel like it's a privileged position that you have in these sessions to be part of those journeys.
Yeah.
I imagine you must see a lot of stuff come up in that space that you're holding. And some of the stuff that comes up, I guess, must be really challenging for people to process what's going on. My guess is, or what I observed in the time was there was a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
With our ladies. Many of them couldn't figure out what the emotion was or why they were feeling it or where it came from. They perhaps had some thoughts that they felt might have triggered it. And in actual fact, knowing my own journey was probably far deeper or something bigger than that.
Yeah.
Should there be an element of an ongoing level of support, or is this such a gentle practice that it allows it to come to us as we're ready to look at what those trauma responses might be?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thanks for asking that. I always, you know, people always have my contact details. I say to them, you know, if there's anything that comes up that you're not sure about, that you want to talk about, that you know, you're not comfortable with, that's causing you any kind of grief or distress, just call me. And, you know, I would get those people in. I've only done it once, to be honest, and just, you know, do another little session with them, or just even if they just want to chat about it. Maybe they don't understand what happened, you know, maybe they just want to go further into it. Maybe they just, you know, pick the scab or something, and there was stuff underneath it was festering and needed to come out. That's a shocking analogy. Sorry about that.
Doesn't sound great, but you know, I
get really fluffy and light here, but you know what I mean. I think that's
totally
raw and real, and that's kind of thing that happens. You know, I would never, as the same as as a counselling session, I would never leave someone feeling that they hadn't, you know, we hadn't closed the session properly, feeling that they were still wanting, needing, they were still confused, upset, whatever, you know. I always invite people to stay behind if they need to, or just call me and we'll work something out. And as far as the ongoing nature, I mean, I'm one of these people that I'm a bit of a butterfly. I float from one thing to the other, but I really feel that I've settled back in with the breath work because it goes right back to my roots of being a singer, you know, using the breath and using the voice, you know, and taking people on a journey. That's kind of like the counseling thing, and it's the creative Aquarian in me coming out. I love creating journeys and taking people on them, and just, I don't know, I trust myself. I think I'm in a stage of my life where I really trust myself to be able to deliver what people need in the moment.
Yes. Yeah, I really felt that in the minute, because we had a very diverse group of women in our session. Yeah. We all have a couple of things in common, but for the most part, we're all extraordinarily different. And I think that's what makes the bond for all of them so particularly tight. And I found it fantastic to see that it was something that everybody was able to embrace. You were able to bring something to everybody. Everybody had a reaction. And I didn't get to see the reaction in the moment because, of course, I was part of the session, but I watched it transform after. And, you know, for some of them, there were some big breakthroughs all weekend long. For some of them, they became a little introverted and just needed that little bit of space and time within themselves. Yeah. And I found that really fascinating to watch what was happening for them in the time that we spent together. And that was because all of us, with all of our vast differences, were able to share in that collaborative experience with you, which I think is fascinating, because there aren't too many modalities of this growth and personal wellness that can fit so many people at one time. Generally, most of them are very hands-on, one person, or the two of you, an instructor or a practitioner and yourself, rather than this being something that everybody can share in quite comfortably. And yes, of course, there are some I guess some ego-based points that we have to move through, thinking that we're going to be judged, or we might feel uncomfortable if we can leave that at the door, or we can actively try to leave that behind as we work through the session. Otherwise, I think is really supportive and beautiful within the moment. And it's something that we can all share. It's quite incredible.
And that's the beautiful thing about working with groups that know each other and are really quite comfortable with each other, which, the ladies were, is that they do feel safer. And, maybe eventually they'll talk about those things,
Yes.
like they feel, they see each other with different eyes when you've gone through an experience like that together. It's such an honor for me to witness people having those kind of really emotional reactions. It's not even really knowing what it's about. And that is one of the beauties of breathwork, is that you don't really have to know what it's about. Just let it go. Just open the door and let it out. See you later. Move forward. Don't worry about that is a true difference between like counseling and coaching that I learned from Tony Robbins, is that counseling is you're kind of like, you're going over stuff that's happened, and tell me how you felt when you did this, and when that happened, tell me how you felt. It all happened sometimes years and years and years ago. Yeah, you hang on to that stuff. Breathwork, you can let it go. You don't have to know what it is. Some people do go through that trauma, but it's very much on the surface. It's not. We've brought it up. It's not that deep, gut-wrenching pain that may have put it in there in the first place. So I love that it's kind of aligned with coaching, whereas you're not really worried about what's coming up. It's more about getting it out.
Yeah, totally.
Just letting it go and moving forward with a lighter and brighter and better outlook on life.
Well, I hope our listeners can feel your beautiful energy whilst they're listening to you today. Terese, thank you so much for joining me today. I could talk about this subject all afternoon. It really is fascinating to me that something so gentle can be so transformational. Yeah. If people want to find out more about you, Terese, and your practice, how do they find you?
My website is healthylifecoach.com.au. I'm on Facebook as Terese Tanner Wellness. That's Terese Tanner Wellness.
We'll make sure all of those links are in the show notes too, so that you can check Terese out. And I think it's important to say that some of the stuff that you offer, you're able to do online. Is that still correct?
All of it.
Great. Excellent. Because I think it's important, when you find one of the biggest points I could perhaps make is it's the connection and the comfortableness that you need to feel with somebody for you to be able to embark on a journey like this. So if you feel connected to Terese listening to this today, please reach out. She can service you no matter where you are. As I said, we had a great journey. Some of our ladies have gone on to do some extra work with Terese. We all really enjoyed it. There wasn't one person, there were a few resistant ladies that didn't particularly want to participate, and yet they absolutely enjoyed their experience. It was enjoyable. It wasn't something that they needed to fear. Terese, thank you so much. Yeah. Oh, it was incredible. It was so cool.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
I could talk about this all day as well.
I bet. Thank you so much for making time for me from sunny Hobart. It's still beautiful.
I know, right? It's beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.